Pompey 0, Bristol City 1. It was surely a game that both sides deserved to lose. We weren't very good, and frankly they weren't very good. Losing end, and they went back up West Country with 3 points, which they didn't deserve, because they were very ordinary. But they were just as ordinary as us, but we conceded a silly goal. So let's talk about that. How did that come about? We're conceding goals like that from set pieces, but that wasn't a set piece, but it was the equivalent of a set piece in that it was a ball struck into the middle of the penalty area from wide, and they got their head on it. There was nobody near the guy who got the header in. I think Regan Poole was the nearest defender to him, but he was 2 strides away, 6 feet away, whereas you'd like your defender to be on the shoulder of a forward who is working his way towards the header. It turned out to be a free header, and you should score those free headers, and so he did. Schmidt had a flap at it, but he had no chance. He had a good game. He had made a couple of good saves, Schmidt, but, we'll come to individual performances in just a second. I don't know what your thoughts are. I would like your thoughts. God knows I'd like your thoughts. radiopompey@gmail.com is our email address. Radio Pompey, one word. Doesn't matter if it's lower or higher case, at gmail.com. radiopompey@gmail.com if you want to drop a line and share your pain. Really, because we are in a bit of pain now. We had this, what turns out to be a false dawn, that wonderful night against Millwall, when everything worked. It felt like we were heading towards the title of League One. Do you remember those glory days, nights? And it felt like we were back doing that. And now we've had 2 real kidney punches. Yeah, kidney punches is what they are, aren't they? Anyway, to today's game. They got that goal. They didn't deserve it. Well, actually, I say that out of spite, really, because they did come out of the blocks quicker than us. And the first 10 minutes, they were showing us the way. As I remember it, we managed to weather the storm, but they started quicker than we did. This does sometimes happen with us, quite a lot, too often. The adrenaline of the moment and the crowd seemed to get to our opponents at Fratton Park at the moment quicker than to our players, who almost start with a sense that this game is there to be won. All they have to do is look good, and there's more to it than that. And they know that, and we know that, and the coaching staff know that as well. But if you can't G a player up to come out of the blocks, firing on all cylinders, with clenched fists, literally and metaphorically, and we can't, often enough, then you're in trouble. And then suddenly the scoreline: Pompey 0, Bristol City 1. Did they ever look like a side who deserved to be better than us scoreline-wise? No. But did we have any player who stood out as being special? They didn't, and nor did we. And that's why I think the right result would have been a defeat for both sides, frankly. And you don't see that very often. You do see it, but not very often. 2 teams, both of whom deserve to lose. So it wasn't a wet and windy day. It was a dark and overcast day, and there's some rain in the air, but that wasn't a factor. The crowd were a bit subdued. I thought we were a little bit apprehensive, actually. Having seen the Sheffield game, we were kind of, let's not go through that again. Please, guys out there in the blue shirts, please don't put us through that again. But they did. And we kind of went along with them. I don't think the crowd played their best game. There were several players out there on the pitch in a blue shirt who didn't play their best game, and I think we didn't play our best game as a crowd. And we'll come back to it in a second, but there was nothing more demoralising, frankly, for me, don't know about you, than the booing at the end of the 95 minutes. What does that mean? What do you do? You're booing your own people. You're booing your own family. You're booing the people who are on your side, who are working their socks off for themselves and their club and for you. You boo them. We'll come back to that. So, 1-0 down. And they scored quite early. And Arsene Wenger always used to say, an early goal doesn't affect the game, frankly. You just carry on. Gary Lineker said about the Germans, whether you score or they score, they just carry on playing the same way. They're not aware that they're 1-0 down or 1-0 up. They play the same way. So that goal went in early, and we then had, whatever it was, 75 minutes to equalise and get a point, nick a point. Point would be good, point would be okay, but we couldn't do it. And to be frank, like them, we didn't create any good chances. Not really. I mean, not proper chances. There was a sniff here for Colby, poor Colby. It's just not falling for him. I don't think he's falling short in any way. It's just not falling for him. The ball isn't falling for him. He's not getting the service that he has had from Murphy on the left. Murphy had a great game, largely. Not entirely, but largely. He seemed to taper off, maybe get tired. He's 30. He's running up and down that touchline, like a mad dervish. But towards the end of the game, I think he's saying to himself, I'm a little bit taxed. I'm not sure I can go past this guy and get that famous cross of mine in anymore. So he's probably somebody who we're going to see substituted after 70 minutes, 75 minutes in future games, because that's that's how time flies, how Father Time works his evil magic. But he couldn't get the ball to Colby Bishop in the way that we have seen him do it so many times, and therefore the way that so many other teams who are looking at us to see how we might score and see how they might negate that way of scoring, they've seen that and they want to close Colby down and close Murphy down. And I saw a number of occasions when, as the ball came to Murphy, they had 3 men lined up for him. What can you do? I mean, you've got to be Ronaldo or Messi or something to get past 3 men. And sometimes he did, but in as much as all he had to do was create that space in front of him to get that cross in. Just have a sip of cough medicine. I feel like drowning my sorrows, to be honest, and I dare say you do as well. But we're heading now into a weekend where I've just got one stat for you. Good stat. A stat that I was messaged by someone quite high up at Pompey, because this person and I had been talking about whether the different schedules that you get now for football, with games on Friday and early Saturday and then late Saturday and Monday and what have you, and of course midweek fixtures, affects the result in any way, shape or form, as they always say. And he got back to me, having done a bit of research, and he said all of Pompey's 4 wins have been conventional 3 o'clock kickoffs. And I got back and said, I wonder whether we're going to break that run today against Bristol City. And of course the answer is no. Now, you go looking for excuses, don't you? John Messino, for example, I think is aware of that stat, because the person who highlighted it to me is quite close to John Messino, and he's not going to use it as an excuse, because he doesn't do excuses. And I'm talking to you just 10 minutes after the game ended, and John Messina therefore will be doing a really difficult thing, which is to meet the press and field questions about the performance and the team selection and the substitutions, all the conventional questions that he gets asked before he goes into the dressing room and says what he says and asks the questions that he asks, because good management is more about asking questions than about telling. And what will he ask? What happened there? They were very ordinary. If we can't pull something special out against them, does that mean we're ordinary? And if we're ordinary, then we are in for a relegation fight. Now, I haven't looked at the table as it stands now, with some games still to happen later this afternoon. Again, I'm talking about 2:30 on the afternoon of the defeat by Bristol City. And it could be that we are in the bottom. We're close to the bottom three. And so it is game on. And some fans might start reminding themselves of the basic melody of The Great Escape. Oh, God. Well, it's exhilarating. And last time it worked out fine for us. Let's hope that if it comes to that this season, it also works out okay for us. But in the meantime, a very disappointing, really disappointing, flat as a pancake match, game of football. Almost wasn't a game of football. It was almost like a séance. Not a séance. A siesta. It was like a siesta. Dull as dishwater. Us 0, them 1.